No wonder you won, the CEO awards and the Titan awards, because that is a reflection of you and your leadership, and that people do want to stay with you and continue to support you and your mission.
Well, thank you. But, we've got a lot. We have a great team. And when you really utilize the skills that your team has and you pay them well and treat them well, and we really, when people have a milestone anniversary, we send them on a little trip, and the trips get longer as they've been there longer.
Oh, wow.
And so that's kind of fun too. And I didn't want to give them just a tchotchke. I wanted to give them a memory.
Let's talk tails.
As Elontec CEO, formed in 1997, my guest today is passionate about helping others move forward. This pertains to her business and people in general. Elontec is the leading provider of commercial furniture, moving, and technology solutions. Elontec's success and unique business model has been recognized locally and nationally, receiving awards such as the ASU, WP Carey, Spirit of Enterprise Award for Entrepreneurial Leadership, the Greater Phoenix Chamber of Commerce, Impact Awards for Community Involvement, Inc. 500, Most Influential Woman of the Valley, Business Journal's Top 25 Women in Business Award, Most Admired CEOs, and Tech Titan Awards. And although those awards sound amazing and are amazing, some of her greatest joys come from her personal responsibility as serving and founding the Diaper Bank of Central Arizona in 2013, with the mission to provide 1 million diapers to local families in need. It's Ginger Clayton. How are you today?
Well, thank you very much. I'm great. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. My goodness gracious, do you have room on a shelf for all of those awards you've received? That was a mouthful of what I had to do there.
Oh my goodness, I know. Well, it certainly has been an honor and is very humbling to be recognized in a lot of different areas. But my favorite ones are really the Community Service Awards.
That's excellent.
Which are really great. Yeah, it helps spread the word and really helps people helps to give people an idea of things that they could do to serve. Mm-hmm. Right? Because so many people, I think, want to, but they just need some ideas.
Yeah, definitely. So please tell me the tale behind Elontec. How'd you first get started?
Yeah. So, we originally, my husband had a technology company, Computer Business Technologies, and I was working for a local advertising and marketing firm that had gone through a commercial move. Mm-hmm. We ended up joining forces, basically, and I started a relocation company. He had the technology company. We merged the companies and our families because we weren't married yet, right? We were just meeting each other. So I often joke that we merged these two companies and then had a furniture baby. And so the furniture piece is now the biggest piece of the line of services that we provide, being commercial furniture, relocation, and technology. So that's kind of the short story of how it all kind of began and came together initially.
I didn't realize that you and I both had similar origin stories, and that you worked with your now husband before becoming the husband and wife factor.
Yes.
So same thing for us. Mm-hmm. We started our business before we even started officially dating. We were just friends who, had a similar passion but opposite skills.
Yeah. So well said. Yeah, my husband Joe and I have very different skills, opposite skills, right? And they marry very well in business and in life in general. So we'll have been married 24 years this December.
So 24 years in 2025, December. That's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah.
We're not quite there. We only got to 8 in 2025, but we're working on it. Got to start somewhere, right?
Well, you're quite a bit younger, so that could have something to do with it, for sure.
Not quite, but yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me the tale behind choosing your brand colors. What made you choose the white and the reds and the blacks for your colors?
Yeah. Well, I really love the combination together myself. My favorite colors are red, black, and white.
There you go.
And, originally we picked the bright red, and we feel like it really stands out. Mm-hmm. And then last year we went through a rebranding effort, and we went with a darker red. So we're really...
I like the crimson red.
Thank you. Yeah. I really like it. We're really looking for more of a sophisticated approach. You know, we're really growing and expanding. And so we were really changing our brand a little bit and elevating it a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, we've been really enjoying it. We've been getting a lot of great feedback on the new version of red, I'd say.
Yeah, I like it a lot too, because red is one of those colors that can either come across really strong, powerful, or warning, stay away, scary.
Right.
And I feel that darker crimson tone shows more of that independent success versus the like, hey, warning, red, stop sign. So excellent.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I really
love
like
that.
Thank
So
you.
tell me the tale though that did make you transition to start offering more furniture. Because at first it was just the technology piece and helping people get their technology all set when they do a corporate move. Why add in the literal hardware of furniture?
Yeah. Well, and it's a bit of a long tail. So I'll start at the beginning, but, we had the computer business technologies, right? The technology business. So we were the small outsourced IT provider for small and medium-sized businesses, providing 24/7 on-site support, managed services, low voltage wiring, voice over IP technology, and all of those pieces of technology. And then 9/11 happened, right? And much like everyone experienced, we did too, a downturn in the economy, and we lost 25% of our revenue. And keep in mind, we're currently, merging families, right? And we hadn't started the relocation business yet. And then started having, I brought in one child, he brought in two. We had two together, which started right after we got married. And so that happened right after 9/11. And so it was a very tumultuous time, very difficult time. And we just went to our clients, our technology clients, and asked, hey, is there something else that we could do for you? And if there is, what might that be? And one fairly long-term technology client said, well, they had just gone through a corporate move. And they said, well, we just moved, and you moved our servers, you moved our printers, our computers, you did all of our low voltage wiring, you moved our video surveillance systems. If you could have just moved the furniture, that would have been great for all the reasons that we weren't happy with.
Well, where are you going to put the computer if you don't have a desk?
Right. And so, so we thought, I had just gone through a corporate move where I was working and learned a lot of the things and efficiencies that I thought could happen in that process, and from an end user, from a client standpoint. And I thought, I think there's something to this. And so I actually founded the moving company, Relocation Management Specialists, that year. And so many people thought, you guys are a little crazy. You're a technology company. What are you doing starting this?
Yeah, well, because they always say the riches are in the niches, then it's technology and then hardware of furniture, but there is synergy to it.
Yeah, and we weren't even talking furniture yet. We were just talking moving, commercial moving, relocation business. And we just really thought any company that's moving needs all of their technology moved, and maybe they'll need new technology as well at the same time. And so we started that, and we tripled our revenue in the first year. So we were 1 million at that point. We went to 3 million in the first year of starting the relocation company. And we were only commercial moving company. We weren't doing any residential. And one of the things that we learned starting this commercial moving company is most moving companies do both. And they typically will outsource the furniture install piece to a furniture install group. And for us, we decided to hire furniture installers because we're moving businesses, right? So office furniture installation. So that was our primary core and always has been as far as our field technicians. And so we were working very well doing that. And then we got into a little bit more on the logistics end. Fairly quickly, one of our salespeople applied or responded to an RFP with the state of Arizona Correctional Industries. And it was a contract that would be picking up and delivering baked goods throughout the entire state of Arizona to the 19 different prisons. So we'd pick up in Florence and deliver every night, multiple trucks. And I remember thinking, No, we'd only been in business probably 6 months. We didn't even have our own trucks yet. We were still renting trucks. I mean, we were really in the beginning stages. And I thought, oh, well, we'll never get this. And then I get a call mid-June saying, congratulations, you've won this contract and you start July 1st. So then we said, okay, guess we're going to be getting new trucks and CDL drivers and bonded and all those things.
How did your husband take that? Because I can see me do, I've done that same thing. And then I go, oh yeah, now I get to figure this out. And Eric's just like, oh my gosh, now I have to figure this out.
Yeah, and well, he ended up driving one of the routes the first 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah, and side story, we didn't know, but he had pretty large kidney stones on both sides, and the bouncing of that truck, driving long days for a long period of time, he ended up with impacted stones on both sides and in the hospital for a month, and they had to surgically remove them.
Poor guy.
Our daughters, Jenny, our youngest daughter, ended up turning 1, and we had her little birthday party in his hospital room.
Oh.
While I'm interviewing people. So one person in particular on our team who I really love, her name is, I love so many people on our team, but Felicia. Mm-hmm. And I think of her every time I tell this story because I was interviewing her on the phone from the hospital room. And she has just celebrated her 20th anniversary with us.
Oh, yeah. How wonderful.
Yeah, in accounting. So that's basically the progression and how we got into the relocation piece. We got this logistics contract. Then we ended up with a moving contract with the state and really started to build that. Then we ended up doing furniture installs for some other furniture companies. And we had a pretty big contract with 2 local companies that ended up getting bought out by a national company, Target Commercial Interiors. And that ended up being $1 million a year just in furniture install in itself. We hadn't sold furniture at this time because we didn't want to bite the hand that fed us. Mm-hmm. But we fast forward a couple more years and then the recession happens, right? And so now, after 9/11, the downturn in the economy, people were still in business. They might have been moving. They might have been downsizing, but there was still activity. Mm-hmm. But in the recession, some businesses were just not able to make it and closing their doors. And in fact, some of our clients who are property real estate managers called and said, hey, I've got a problem. I have a client, a commercial client, that went out of business, shut their doors, and left 4 floors of furniture. Can you help me get this out of here? And we said, absolutely. That's when we really started selling used furniture in the recession. So we were finding lots of left, unwanted, previously loved office furniture, and then finding a new home for it.
Nice.
And it really became also part of our sustainability program. Our rescue line where we've rescued actually about 10 million pounds of unwanted furniture, from landfills. And we will typically either put it on our used for showroom, we can consign, as well as we donate to charity. And then if the furniture is just absolutely seen its last legs of life, we'll dispose of it properly. Yeah. And that's really important to us. But that used furniture piece, which didn't compete with any of the furniture companies we were doing installs for because they were mostly all selling new furniture.
Right. Yeah.
And then we were doing some refurbished furniture and then ended up on a contract with the state of Arizona as refurbished furniture. And so that's how we lightly got into it. We did start to have some clients saying, hey, we're getting all these different bills from you, the computer business technologies, the relocation. We also had a small internet service provider company at the time. Is there any way, you guys can just give us one bill, consolidate? So we said that would be great and a lot easier for us too.
Yeah.
So that's when we just pulled all the service lines together. We actually sold off the ISP and we were technology, relocation, and telecommunication at that point. And we rebranded as Elontec. We really wanted something that said, hey, our base here is technology.
Yeah.
Hugged in technology with the E in the tech, but we're here for the long haul. We're about longevity and long-term partnerships and alliances. And so that's kind of where that name Elontec comes from.
Okay.
And we wanted a name that didn't say what we do in the name.
Yeah.
Like we had before, computer business technologies, relocation management specialists. And it gave us a chance to really explain what we did, but we could also pivot and change pretty easily.
Yeah. Hence why we're Financial Potion.
There you go.
I didn't we didn't have a studio when we first started. I didn't want video marketing. I didn't want video on, anything with that because I wanted to have that conversation.
Yeah, I love that. So see, who knew we had so much in common?
So much, I know, right? That's why I love these little sessions where we can just dive a little deeper and, into each other's lives and businesses. And so equal idea of, Elontec. People can formulate their ideas, but they have to ask you the question. So what does that really mean? Are you a technology company? And it's like, well,
yeah, exactly. And the recession went on for a couple of years. It was long, right? And then at 2010, this national furniture install company, the Target Commercial Interiors. I mean, it's like Target corporate, but it's their commercial interiors. They were purchased by Atmosphere, and Atmosphere is now the furniture company that is in town. And they said, well, when Atmosphere comes in, so they manage 13 other states, and they'll be coming here eventually too. And when they do, we won't need your services anymore. And we're like, oh man, now we're going to have to replace $1 million worth of revenue here. And it's not labor revenue, right? And so at any rate, we thought, and we asked them, would you mind if we pitched an idea to you? And they said, sure, because the guy who was in charge was still the guy that we worked with at one of the smaller furniture companies that got bought by Target. And we said, how about you let us take over those 13 other states and you can add into your wallet share our technology pieces and you'll make a lot more money. And they said, well, I love the way you think, but we are tied up in these contracts and we just can't. And so thanks, but we'll have to part ways. And so then we said, okay, well, how are we going to replace this $1 million worth of revenue, this contract? And we said, well, there's no reason why we can't sell new furniture now. We won't be biting any hands that are feeding us, right? And so in 2010 is when we started selling the commercial furniture. So we ended up hiring a couple people, experts from the industry. We already had all the furniture installers. And so we had sales and we hired ops, and that's when the furniture piece really got going. And then we grew another 50% that year. And ever since, we've been growing tremendously.
That's excellent.
Well, except during the pandemic when offices were shut down.
I would say it might have been a little bit of a
there was a little bit of a slowdown there. We managed to keep our revenue the same for about 3 years. So
I'm sure the technology need might have gone up because there's plenty of people who had to have, servers hooked up at their home or at least better, telecommunications at their home. So did, during the pandemic, did you just kind of pivot and go more on the tech side again and less on the furniture?
We really didn't that much, surprisingly. But what did happen is so many people were working from home without necessarily a home office. Right. And now we've got kids doing Zoom school at home, right? The whole family's like at home in some cases and in mine. And so we created an affordable program for simple desk. We had a desk and a chair, desk, and monitor arms, or two monitor arms, or a little file cabinet, or what have you. We had different pieces that went all the way up to full home office if people needed it. So we really started working with different companies who would give their employees a stipend, right? And also individuals as well. So we did a lot of that. And during that same time, a lot of larger companies took advantage of that time when employees were gone and redid their carpet, redid their furniture, and were reconfiguring. So we did a lot of reconfigurations, creating bigger workspaces instead of the smaller cubicles, right? Creating more room, those open benching systems, the tables where you just see kind of in a tech group, everybody just working away a couple feet from each other. Well, those were no longer exciting or the thing that was in.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So the walls were going back up, glass stackers, the piece of a glass panel on top of a cubicle so that it didn't feel so boxed in, but created a little bit of a division. Lots of products that were safer and easier to manage and clean out.
Nice.
And so we saw a lot of paneling systems. Instead of using upholstery, we were switching them out to laminate, right? And then there's copper infused and different technologies that were really helpful in the areas where people did want to still have upholstered items. And so that's what really kept us pretty busy during that time frame. And we managed to maintain our revenues. And then since COVID, we've been growing about 38% a year since then. And so, so it's been exciting, and it's been a journey, and it hasn't all been easy, So, but we've got a great team, and they've really stuck with us. We've had so many people that have been on our team for 5, 10, 15, 20, 28, 27 years. 27 years is the longest employee. And so...
Well, no wonder you won, the CEO awards and the Titan Awards, because that is a reflection of you and your leadership, and that people do want to stay with you and continue to support you and your mission.
Well, thank you. But, we've got a lot. We have a great team. And when you really utilize the skills that your team has and you pay them well and treat them well, and we really, when people have a milestone anniversary, we send them on a little trip, and the trips get longer as they've been there longer.
Oh, wow.
And so that's kind of fun too. And I didn't want to give them just a tchotchke. I wanted to give them a memory. Right. And some lifelong memories of time with their family. Because that's something that I personally really enjoy, is travel and time with family. And so we wanted to be able to give that gift to other people. And I think when you do those different things and one of the things I think that we really foster is getting ideas from our team. Hey, how can we do this better? What can we do differently? And when people feel heard, and sometimes we can't implement all these ideas, right? But we implement a lot, and they see that, and I think they feel, and they are a part of something. Like, it's not just me, it's not me and my husband. Like, it's truly our whole team. And so, any of those awards are really a congratulations to the whole team for sure.
And when did you hire your first team member, and what type of department role did they fill?
Well, my husband had the technology business, and he had about 10 employees before I came on. And most of them were engineers and then accounting and things like that. And then when I started the relocation, business, so we had the two, but we're operating out of the same location. I'd say when we merged, and we really grew, that tripled our revenue in that first year. That's when I really felt like I was daydreaming of a room with 4 white walls, and a straitjacket would have been great, because I just needed a permanent hug because I was losing my mind, right? We had 5 kids, and we've got 2 toddlers, and the others are middle school and, just elementary and middle school. And nonprofit work, and just all those things pulling us in so many directions. And at the time, I was answering the phone, I was dispatch, I was accounting, I was HR, I was, all the hats, and was working probably 14-hour days. And they were long days. And, one of the things, being my own boss, is I could bring, like when I had my baby, I could bring her to work with me until it gets a little too hard, right? When you just need to focus. But for a while, they're just
that first year is actually pretty easy. I don't know why people ever say like, oh, newborn babies are great.
Yes.
They sleep most of the
Yes.
time. You can breastfeed them while still on the
Yes.
floor. You know, they don't
Yes.
make noises really, or if they do, they're the most adorable little coos. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. It's that. I would not even the first year. I'd say it's the first like 4 to 5 months.
Yes.
After that, then they just start rolling and
Yes.
climbing and just getting into a whole bunch of
They
things.
get a little mobile. And I
Yes.
remember with Lexi, we had to, everybody was taking turns like shuffling her around the office, and they were bouncing on knees and typing. I wish I had taken pictures, but taking pictures just wasn't as prevalent as it is today back then. But I so wish I had taken photos of that moment. But certainly I have
It's
it
in your mind.
and
for
in my
sure.
mind for sure, those early days. And you know, during the time when I said there was the recession and
Mhm.
things were so tough, you know, we called it the Tuna Pea Wiggle days. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Tuna Pea Wiggle, but
Mm-mm.
it's basically, and I learned this from my mom when we had hard times growing up. She would try to make it fun, but it was basically cream of mushroom soup or any kind
Okay.
of cream soup, some peas, some tuna fish, and she would put it over toast, or you could put it over
Mhm.
pasta or
Mhm.
crackers.
Mhm.
Anyway, that was Tuna Pea Wiggle, and she'd
Yeah.
wiggle, you know, the plate. Anyway, she made it fun. And so our Tuna Pea Wiggle days were certainly the days after 9/11, and I just remember us putting every last dime into the company, going without pay, refinancing our car and our home just to be able to go that, you know, next month or two without a payment. They were very tight days, but I think it just takes some perseverance and some grit. You know, we believed we could do it, and pushing through, and a lot of prayer and a lot of faith too, for sure. You know, and now, you know, now it's really great. We've grown. We've got about 80 employees,
Nice.
and we're here in the Phoenix area. We've got a location in Tucson and also Dallas and Austin, Texas. We have some national contracts that we're doing different projects in every state for a large wireless company. And so that's been really fun. And now we're able to travel and have all those dreams of all the places that I wanted to see in this bucket list of place are happening, and really enjoying it. And not that there still aren't hard times, but it's certainly much easier.
Yeah. Well, you've built the structure.
Now,
It sounds like
yeah.
you built the structure. You built the team.
Yeah.
You know, I truly do look up to you, honestly, as a
Mhm.
business owner and a mom. Every time you come into a room, you're always, you know, full of positive energy. You know, you can really feel people's energy, and you're always a positive energy. You know, you have a very successful business, and you know, from what I've seen, you know, some great looking kids, healthy kids. You know, and it seems like an all around just like great life. So like
Yeah.
that is amazing what you have built. But I appreciate you giving the honesty
Yeah.
that it wasn't, you know, right away. It wasn't easy. I feel like social media is so good at just highlighting the good, highlighting the awards, or highlighting, oh, look at me at the beach. But then we kind of shy away and don't show the 5, 10, however many years it was to get us to that point.
Right. Yeah. That's so true. And I always, I don't mind sharing the hard stories, because I think people have to know, okay, it's not all
Mhm.
roses, right? And
Yeah.
sunshine. Like there
Overnight
are,
successes and
Right.
yeah.
I mean, sure, those happen, but those are the rarity. And even in those moments, there's got to be difficult times,
Mhm.
right? And so we don't see those much. And so I think there's a lot to be shared. And I think there's a lot that people can learn. You know, like I was very honored to be invited to be part of a book called Six Figure Chicks.
Yeah.
And in that, I got to share my story. And at first, I was feeling shy and nervous about it all. And then I thought, you know, this is really part of what I believe in, which is helping other women and people in general. But I really love helping other women in business. And if they can see maybe my story and go, oh, wow, if she can do it, I can do it. Right. And so for that reason, I agreed to, you know, be one of the authors in the book.
Yeah.
And it was really a great experience for me too, because you have only so many words. that you have to tuck your story into. So it makes you really hone in on the important parts that one, I thought maybe other people could learn from and glean a little bit of interest from. So.
Yeah, and I know we know each other through the National Association of Women Business Owners. And back in, I want to say it was early 2025, you did do a presentation at NABO, and you kind of broke down how you did an Excel spreadsheet of like how you spent your time. I've actually since been doing that.
Oh,
so yeah, I'm not
that.
kidding when I say I do look up to you. And so yeah, I have since been doing that, and honestly, it's been giving me a bit more peace every week, because some days where I feel like, oh my gosh, I was doing so much. And I'm like, oh, I actually only worked so many hours because I spent X many hours doing this fun activity in the middle of the day, or, something like that. And then also I'm seeing where maybe some days I need to give myself more time blocks. I go, oh my gosh, I was jumping every 15 minutes to another thing. No wonder my mind felt so sporadic at the end of the day, because I was doing 15 different line items versus some days where there's maybe 2 line items where I put nice block chunks of time. I know you also had mentioned too, when you did the presentation, that your husband goes, well, where's my time? And that's something too that, my Eric and I have just discovered, is that, we don't always look at our own time to just be with each other too, and to spend time with each other. So we actually, in the summer of 2025, we're going to take a day trip up to, the Verde River. We're going to do a little wine country fun, just a little day trip, but something where we're like, okay, we need to put this in the calendar, because you're right. When we actually take a step back and look analytically, it's like, oh, you're right. There's not even a time in here for you to interrupt me with a meeting, because I'm actually doing this and this and this and this.
Yeah.
And so I do now the energy emotions. How do I feel in each activity to see which ones are my bright red bad energy, where maybe I can delegate it out, versus the, what's my blue happy energy of like, I really enjoy doing this.
Oh, I love that.
So,
That's
thank
a
you.
great idea. Yeah. Well, and I'm so glad to hear that you took that nugget and put it into place and are studying yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It's just because I take notes and I do notebooks, so I see in general what I do, but knowing exactly how many times did I start a task but then got sidelined for a conversation, a phone call, or sidelined for helping a staff member with something, or sideline, it's oh wow, I tried to start this activity and then there's 4 line items in between where I wanted to be working on all these interruptions. So it's a nice awareness point. So thank you.
It really is. I learned a lot from, creating this spreadsheet and tracking my time, and what buckets of time were they HR, were they marketing, were they accounting, what were they, to figure out what position to hire first, which was really our accounting, right?
Yeah.
He's our office management, if you will, at that time. And it just was so helpful, and it gave so much clarity. And then for me, I color coded things in a different way. I love your spin on that, but I created those, the old pie chart of all the different roles in your life.
Yep.
And put those into my calendar, and everything that was on my calendar, I color coded with that particular role, whether it was mom or business owner or wife. And the wife was blue, right? The Joe, I call it the Joe's color. And there was no blue. There was no blue on the calendar. Poor Joe. And he was right, because especially when you have young kids, you're multitasking in with T-ball, with soccer, with kids events, with ballet, whatever. And then all the work time and charity and client dinners and all that kind of stuff. So date night became sacred.
Yeah.
Yeah, it became sacred. And sometimes it didn't necessarily mean we were even going out.
Right, but
Sometimes
just
we
spending
just
time.
wanted, just time together. Sometimes it was dinner in. Sometimes it was even like during COVID, we had to get very creative. It was a walk outside, or whatever those.
Or even just playing a game together sometimes.
Cards. Absolutely.
Yeah. I completely agree. So thank you again for sharing that with the whole group. And another reason why you should be a NAVO member, because there's people like Ginger who, gives their time and their knowledge in order to help us other fellow business owners. So thank you again for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad to hear it was used and helpful.
Yes. I'm currently doing it.
Thrills me.
I'm not joking. I can show you on the computer later.
I love it. I love it.
And so, a lot of us here on that are watching this show, are business owners, and a lot of us are also parents. So tell me some tips and some things to keep in mind as someone is navigating the multi hats of life of being a present mom, but also a successful business owner.
I in my early days when I worked in corporate America before I had my own business, and I was working in a very male-dominated industry and was one of very few women in management. And I was working a lot of hours and really struggling with I was a single mom at the time, I had been divorced. How do I be a really great mom and also really thrive in my career?
Right.
And an older gentleman who was really trying to be helpful, and keep in mind this is in the early 90s, said to me, "Sweetheart, you can't have it all. You need to pick one that you want to be really good at. You can't be all those things."
Yeah, it was a different time, people.
It was a different time for sure. And I just thought, that's ridiculous, and I'm going to figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
And it took a lot. So part of that time frame when I was telling you about the 4 white walls and the straight jacket, where I thought I was losing my mind trying to get perfect balance. Well, I don't believe there is balance. Like, I think there is autonomy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there might be weeks where you have to work really hard and long, and then there might be days or weeks where you're going to be parenting really hard and long. And I think don't be too hard on yourself, right? Like that, I think especially as women, I think we feel the brunt of rearing the children and the doctor's appointments and the schoolwork and the teachers' meetings and the PTA and the community service. I mean, the list goes on and on, the clothes, and, literally the list could go on for a long time of all that falls under the breadth of our wings, if you will. And so be gentle with yourself. And I'd say when you're defining what your different roles, and define what a goal is so you know what success looks like. Mm-hmm. As a mom, this is what success is to me.
Yeah.
As a business owner, this is what success looks like. As a wife, define it. Otherwise, you don't know what you're striving for.
Right.
And I didn't know for a while, and that's why I was losing my mind. I really felt like, oh my gosh, I'm just burning the candle at both ends. And so when I did that gave me an immense amount of clarity. And then, kind of mix up your day. There were days I would go and volunteer at my kids' school every Friday and serve pizza. I was the pizza fairy. Anyway, I loved it. It was my favorite title. And, and then different, when the kids would go on their adventures at school, the
chaperone.
Thank you. Yeah, I was a chaperone for field trips. At school. Yeah. And so those things were really important to me. Mm-hmm. That made me feel present. One year I was room mom for 2 kids, and that was too much. That was a bit of my, overachiever self. But I learned from that. Okay, don't do that. And this is back in the days when you actually really needed to make everything for Teacher Appreciation Week. I was making.
It's a shame. You're not allowed to
cookies.
Bring homemade food anymore.
You're not. But it is a lot easier. So
it is easier, but
that.
Come on, not nearly as tasty. Let's get
so true. So true.
You don't taste that love.
You don't. Yeah. Well, and it is an act of love, right?
Yeah.
For me anyway, I love baking. And so, figure out what those things that are important, be gentle with yourself, and let your schedule ebb and flow as it can. There may be days that you're working a 14-hour day or a 12 or a 10. Or 16, whatever those long days look like. But then maybe there's a day where you can take a half a day and go volunteer in your kid's school or chaperone on a field trip or what have you. And those things were really important to me. And that's when I felt like, okay, he was wrong. I figured this out. I do have it all. And you just have to know what having it all looks like for you.
For your own self. Yeah, I think you're right in that you need to, for your own self, having your own yardstick to measure success and not compare with others. Because, for some, maybe, what's really important to them is travel. And so they're constantly traveling. And if you're saying, we don't travel enough, so we're not being successful. But is that truly success for you and your family? So you're right. Yeah, it's all about what makes sense for the individual.
Yeah. So I think that would be my biggest piece of advice.
For sure. Give yourself grace.
Give yourself
Yes.
grace. Yeah. And clarity. And then you'll know when you've gotten there.
Yeah. And then if you haven't gotten there, keep persevering and pushing through, right?
Yeah, and sometimes maybe you look at what your goals are, and is that still the goal that I wanted?
Mm-hmm.
Now that I see a little glimpse of what that goal looks like,
Mm-hmm.
do I still want that?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you need to readjust? And I've had to do that several times too. And it's okay. It's okay to do that, So I know at first that was really hard for me to wrap my head around because I'm so fiercely goal driven
Mm-hmm.
that it was hard for me to change my goal.
To change it. Because then did it feel almost like a fail by changing?
It felt like a failure.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really had to sit down and have a hard talk with myself and say, it's okay. This is not a failure. This is I've changed my trajectory.
A reroute.
A reroute. This is a reroute. This makes more sense. This goal is better, right, for me or for whatever, our family dynamic, our business. Even in business, you have to be able to pivot, right, and change. And it's the same in your family, in your personal life. So
that's true. So tell me the tale, though. You're doing all these things. Why start your own nonprofit? There's, there's tons of nonprofits that you donate to or, volunteer for. But why take on really that role of a whole new baby, a nonprofit baby, and helping other babies with their diapers?
So that is a fantastic question. So when I mentioned I was divorced when I was young, mother of a baby, toddler, infant. Well, she was about 1, so still in diapers.
Yeah.
Okay. So still in diapers, down in Tucson, going to U of A, working 3 jobs, and she had been sick for a week and going through more diapers than normal. I was paying my own way for everything, right? And things were tight. A lot of tuna pea wiggle those days too. And so I just said, well, gosh, I things are tight, but I've got a budget, and I had a very tight budget that I kept to. Well, she was sick this week, Jocelyn. She went through more diapers than normal. And I woke up, it was like Thursday night, early Friday morning, and she was crying, needed her diaper changed. And I only had 2 diapers left. And I realized, and I only had a couple dollars to my name. I wouldn't get paid till 4:00 Friday, so later that day. And so I didn't have enough money to go buy more diapers, and I wouldn't have enough diapers to drop her off at daycare because they required a day's worth of diapers, 6 to 10 diapers. And I just thought, what am I going to do? I don't want to miss classes. I don't want to call out of work and be a bad employee and not get paid too, right? And so I was a visit supervisor for the Casa de los Niños down in Tucson. And I called my boss, Joanne, and I said, this is my situation. I'm not sure what to do. And she's like, we have this diaper bank down here that helps us by giving us diapers to give to families in need. Sounds like you could use a package of diapers. And she brought me a package of diapers. And that's all I ever needed was just that one little package, but it really stuck out in my mind, that help. And I was very prideful, and to receive help from someone was very hard. But also obviously such a blessing. And so then fast forward many years later, I own my own business. I'm in Women Presidents Organization, and a friend of mine in there, Eileen Rogers, is on the board of directors for Homeward Bound, and she runs and started a diaper drive for Homeward Bound. And she asked me, hey, would you like to get involved with this diaper drive? You could host a diaper drive at your business or your neighborhood. And then you can help me run it. And I said, yes, actually, I'd love to do that. And I ended up joining the board of Homeward Bound, was very involved with this diaper drive, ended up co-chairing it, and then grew it from Homeward Bound needed about 80 to 90,000 diapers a year, and then grew it to, we got about 500,000 diapers. And so then we're just calling nonprofit friends saying, hey, we've got a lot of diapers. Do you need some? Come get some.
Yeah.
And then I thought, this is a lot of diapers. Is there a diaper bank here in Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
Kind of going back in my mind a couple of decades. And there was not. And so I thought, what a shame. 1 in 3 families struggle with diaper need. need and the poverty levels right here in our own backyard. And so I talked to Homeward Bound, and this was probably in the summertime. And I knew that in September, there was going to be National Diaper Need Awareness Week because I had applied for a grant from Huggies as a diaper closet. And that's part of how we got so many diapers. And so anyway, I went to her and I said, would you mind if I started a diaper bank here in Phoenix? And told her my story. And would you mind if I started it as a program of Homeward Bound, and then I'll get things going and start my own nonprofit? And she's like, sure, no problem. They were very used to the annual baby diaper drive and all of that. And so I started the program that fall, had a ribbon cutting and all that kind of stuff, which was great for the National, Diaper Need Awareness Week kickoff. We got a website and we were up and running with the goal to provide 1 million diapers a year, right, to local families in need. And so we did that. That was in 2013. We got that up and going. We did that for a few years. I had started to look into starting my own legal nonprofit to move it out, from under Homeward Bound. And it was very hard owning my own for-profit business and having the diaper bank, if it was going to be my own 501c3, in the same building with the same people, because Elontec just funded it, right? We housed the diapers, all the employees, everybody. And the accounting person said, no, you're going to need to take your employees off the clock. They'll need to go on the diaper bank clock. And I'm like, well, that will affect my employees' full-time status and benefits. So I'm not going to do that. I'm like, forget it. I just want to help people get diapers. So I stayed as a program for a little while under Homeward Bound, and then really started working a lot more with the diaper bank in Southern Arizona. And by the way, when I first started the diaper bank up here, I called the diaper bank of Southern Arizona and said, hey, by the way, you helped me with a package of diapers, and now I want to start a diaper bank in Phoenix. Will you help me? And they said yes, right? Because I was one of the very first people that they helped. They were a new diaper bank.
Okay.
And in fact, they are America's first diaper bank.
No way.
Tidbit right here in our own state. Yeah.
What? A state 48?
A state? I know, right?
One of the last ones, but one of the first ones to get a diaper bank.
Yep, that's right. So kind of an interesting little fact there. And anyway, a few years ago, we ended up merging the diaper banks, and we're now the Arizona Diaper Bank, Tucson and Phoenix locations. And we really work, and it was one of my dreams to really be able to help some of those outlying areas that are much more difficult for people to get the resources. And we had won a federal grant, which was a $1.5 million grant, which allowed us to help service those areas with diapers. Then we were combined supplying 4 million diapers throughout the state. So since then, that grant is on pause. So we are looking for anybody that wants to do diaper donations or diaper drives or all those fun things, so we can still help all of these families. So right here in the Phoenix area, we help 11,000 babies a year.
Wow.
With diapers and wipes and anything else. Sometimes we'll get formula. We'll get a lot of different pieces.
Yeah, because there was the formula outage for the longest time. I know for my son, I couldn't ever get him to latch, and so we ended up having to do formula. And then when I gave birth to my daughter, the hospital said they were out of formula, so they were like, figure it out. And luckily she latched, because I was so paranoid, because I was like, oh my gosh, my first one didn't. We weren't able to. Like, I don't know. So I'm just like, Layla, you got to do this. Yes. Luckily she did. But that is very, very scary if you know your child can only take formula, and then if you run out of formula. That's a very scary feeling.
That is. Yeah, for sure.
So that is amazing. So then so you said that people can host a diaper drive, they can donate to the diaper drive. Okay.
Yeah, they can donate right online, diaperbank.org.
Yeah. We'll have a link in the show notes.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. And you can pick Phoenix or Tucson if you want to, or just general. And we're part of the Arizona charitable tax credit, so you can get money back on your taxes. Potentially, always check with your accountant, but there is a credit available for that. It's just a great way to make a difference. So many people, you think about food insufficiency, right? Which, and housing, right? Those are very important. Certainly their primary needs. But so are diapers, because parents, as I learned, cannot go to work without diapers, enough diapers to give to the daycare, right? And so a lot of people ask me, what about cloth diapers? Well, most daycare centers don't accept. They don't deal with cloth diapers. But we do have a program where we have some cloth diaper packs as well for families who are open to that. I did it myself when I was home. I would use cloth diapers, and when I would go and have to go to work and baby would go to daycare, take disposable diapers. So that was a nice way to mix both. And of course, if someone is home, cloth diapers are great, reusable.
Totally,
and we do offer those as well. And a child will actually become potty trained faster with cloth diapers because they're not as absorbent.
I believe it, unless you're my daughter. I wish. Oh boy.
Tough one, huh?
I digress. It's been a tough one, but eventually it will pass. One would hope, because eventually middle school comes and you can't be the girl that pees your pants.
That's right. That's so true.
Middle school takes care of all those social issues.
It does. That's a good point. For sure.
Yeah. So as we're coming to a close today, I'd love to know, is there a tale that you've either read or heard that's really impacted your life or your business, or just something that you have to go to every time you just want extra entertainment?
That's a really good question. Most recently, it's really I've gotten a lot of inspiration from the stories of the six-figure chicks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
So there's a kind of I would say a common theme, right? In everybody's life, we always have a situation that seems insurmountable, right? And then how do you overcome it? And so I always really like those stories and feel reinvigorated when I read success stories like that, and knowing what they went through. And sometimes I'll learn something. Oh, next time I'm going to try that, right? Or maybe I'm in the middle of a difficult time and I need to think outside of my own space. And so that's been what I've been going to as of late.
Excellent. Six-figure chicks. And there's a few books out, right? There's a few series, so okay.
Yeah. It's really spreading like wildfire.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a Scottsdale book coming out.
Okay.
There's Houston and, Las Vegas, I think, is coming next.
Mel's killing it.
Mel is killing it. Yeah. She's doing a great job. And it's so fun because I was just on a call yesterday, a chick chat with six-figure chicks. I loved that. And it was just so fun to get to meet and interface with these different women, right? And really enjoying that. It's been quite an inspiration. For sure.
I'm aware of the series, but I definitely need to take a deeper look at those series, it sounds like.
Oh, I should have brought you a book. I'll get you a book.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I can add it to the bookshelf.
That's right. Yes. There you go. Good idea.
Awesome. Well, thank you so very much for just sharing your, authentic tale of, starting the business, transitioning and pivoting throughout your time in the business to, where you are today, and just letting us know that, what I say is, you can have a cake and eat it with a fancy fork.
Oh, I like that. Eat it with a fancy fork. Yes, girl. I like that. Well, thanks for having me here today. And it's been fun to share my tale on Tales with Taylor. And hopefully someone will learn something, or I'm certainly very approachable. So if anybody has any questions about anything I've shared today, they're always welcome to find me on LinkedIn or call Elontec. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, you just went right into my next question, was how is it that people can stay connected with you? So make sure you look on LinkedIn, check out Elontec, check out the Arizona Diaper Bank, or Diaper Bank of Arizona.
Arizona Diaper Bank.
I was right the first time. Arizona Diaper Bank.
That's right.
And just thank you for everything that you do, and just for being that, positive energy in every room that you walk into.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you. So if you have a dream, make it happen, stay persistent. And if you need some help along the way, look out into your community. There's plenty of people who can help you. Thanks for being here. Thank you for watching Tales with Taylor. Please make sure you like and subscribe to the Financial Potion YouTube channel to never miss an episode.